welcome to this review of the horror cult classic, The Return of the Living Dead. As always, I am your host, Captain Jackhammer, and I thank you for joining me. The Return of the Living Dead was created by the late Dan O'Bannon, the writer of the original 1979 Alien. The movie is actually an adaptation of a story done in 1978 by Rudy Ritchie. This classic from my childhood was released in 1985, at the tail end of the zombie craze that had been around for about 5 years at the time. Not a traditional zombie movie, this one takes a slightly different approach to it. The movie aims to poke fun at zombie movies and never takes itself too seriously. The movie starts off with Freddy, played by Thom Mathews, on his first day at his first job, a medical supply warehouse. Horror buffs might remember Thom Mathews from Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, where he played an all-grown-up Tommy Jarvis. His boss, Frank, played by veteran character actor James Karen, is showing Freddy the ropes. When Frank decides to tell Freddy a story about some military containers that were shipped to the warehouse accidentally years ago. In them are the remains of an experiment that went wrong in 1967 and caused the dead to rise. Then the bumbling employees accidentally release the gas into the air, and this causes the dead animals and cadavers in the warehouse to come alive. Meanwhile, across the street in the cemetery, a group of punk rockers are partying, getting drunk, and getting naked. Out of ideas on how to dispose of the reanimated beings, Freddy and Frank call the owner of the warehouse Bert, played by another veteran character actor, Clu Gulager, who decides to take the chopped up pieces of reanimated creatures across the street to his friend Ernie, played by Don Calva, who also runs the mortuary in the cemetery, and then fry them in his crematorium. Don Calfa is a longtime television actor who's been in everything from The Streets of San Francisco to Boy Meets World. Once Bert convinces Ernie, and yes, I just got the inside joke, Bert and Ernie, to help them, all the dead things go up in smoke. However, the smoke goes up in the air, causes it to rain, and now the tainted water seeps into the ground and quite literally wakes the dead. Now the dead are crawling out of their graves quite literally, and we have everything from half-mutilated corpses and just stripped-down skeletons crawling out of the ground. And these zombies are different. They actually speak. And one of them actually states that they eat brains because it hurts to be dead, and this somehow relieves the pain. Okay, remember, this is a horror comedy. One of the coolest things in this movie is watching Freddy and Frank, who have had direct exposure to the gas, slowly and methodically go from living, breathing people to the Walking Dead. And in one of the creepiest subplots of the movie is the relationship between Freddy and his girlfriend Tina. Tina, oblivious almost to the point of being obtuse about it, stands by her man as he slowly begins to turn into a brain eater. That is, until he views her as a buffet meal. There's definitely a culture clash theme going on in the movie as well, with the old establishment types like Burke bumping heads with the youthful anarchist types like Spider, played by Miguel Nunez Jr. Now this was years before he was famous for his groundbreaking role as Juana Man. Although a horror comedy, the movie does capture the atmosphere of a classic horror movie. Overcrowded century-old cemeteries, the medical supply warehouse, the mortuary, death-fixated punk kids, and lots of dark comedy. And the music is awesome. It's a little thrash metal for my taste, but it sets the mood and gives the movie a great energy that helps the viewer overlook certain plot holes and over-the-top acting that permeate the story. The Return of the Living Dead gets a 6.5 out of 10. I know what you're thinking. Oh my god, you praised this movie. Why'd you give it such a low rating? Look, this movie is goofy and violent, and there's lots of sex. And the plot is fairly plausible considering the circumstances. But I know that this is not the greatest movie ever made. But it doesn't try to be any more than what it is, which is a real popcorn movie. Unlike the pale imitations of today, which enlist A-list actors and multi-million-dollar CGI effects, but are afraid to show some blatant TNA or a few drops of blood. If you were a horror fan in the 80s, then you know what I'm talking about. And this will be a fun trip down memory lane. If you were raised on Scream and its less worthy imitators, give this one a chance. This was made when horror movies knew what they were, and they didn't try to break the $50 million mark on opening weekend. Thanks for watching. I'm Captain Jackhammer, and I will see you next time.